'Tis September once more. The leaves are starting to brown and fall to the ground. I'm not ready for this. I am still full on in summer garden mode. But alas, the seasons must change. So let's take a look around my garden, see what's ready to harvest, see what I have been harvesting, and what I'm planning for the rest of the year. Welcome to MoggyBoxCraft. I'm Deborah, and welcome back to my greenhouse and garden. So let's start in the greenhouse. So the greenhouse has had a really good tidy. Jalapenos, peppers and chilies are growing pretty good. I've harvested quite a few of these peppers and the chilies are starting to ripen beautifully. Unlike the chilies down here in this planter. I wonder if these are just a little bit too cold or not enough sun. They were down at the bottom of the greenhouse, down there, where it's a bit colder and darker. I don't know if that's why these haven't ripened yet, but I still hold out a bit of hope. As you can see, I've removed quite a few plants. Was this the melons that didn't grow that was in here? I think so. So I've just pulled out all the ropes and the pegs and just tied them up so it's a little bit tidier. I finally accepted that melons are maybe not the ideal plant to grow in Scotland, even in a greenhouse. I think you're going to need a heated greenhouse, and mine is just not warm enough or not consistent enough heat, I think. I've removed the melons, the Luffas, I've even got rid of the aubergine plant. Oh, the aubergine, my god. Side note to self, Deborah, do not plant melons or aubergines next year. They don't grow in your garden, accept it. Try Luffas again though, those are worth a shot. And just remove any dead plants in general from the garden, because if I do it now, it's less to do later. I've also cut back the tomatoes loads. They were pretty much hitting the top of the greenhouse. So if you can see that in there, that's a whole mouldy bit of tomato stem that needs to go. Still have tomatoes ripening, which is great. I do have a few damaged tomatoes here. However, I have enjoyed harvesting the more successful veg or fruit in the greenhouse this year. Tomatoes, chilies, peppers and cucumber. Although I did forget to harvest the cucumbers and the plant kind of collapsed in itself and broke a whole lot. And this is the cucumber plant that broke. Although I do have one last cucumber growing in there, which I'm quite pleased with. The other disaster I've had this year is the sweetcorn. The sweetcorn was back there. They just didn't grow well this year at all. I don't know if that corner's just too dark, too damp. So I've cut them all back. I think I've got one corner in the cob that's looking like it could be ready to harvest. Oh, I can't think this is going to be very good, is it? How many bugs are in here? Probably loads. I'm not leaving out a whole lot of hope for that. I'll get that harvested today. So we'll harvest that and see what it's like, and maybe pop a photo up here or an extra wee video here to show you what it's like. Oh god, that's going to be a disaster, isn't it? I really hope not. I've cleared out a whole lot of pots from the greenhouse and the garden, just hosed them down, and then they're all stacked up here. So they're all clean and ready to use for next year. So I've been harvesting tomatoes like crazy, although there is definitely a mouse eating my tomatoes. Right down there at the bottom of the greenhouse, in the sweetcorn planter, there's this little gathering of tomato skins. And now I've got tomato seedlings growing there. There's definitely been a feast on all my lovely sun gold tomatoes. I think those were all pinched from the lower branches. I don't really know what to do about that. Do I just leave them and see what happens? I imagine they'll probably die back over winter anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. That being said, I do plan to probably harvest most of these tomatoes today. I would love for the tomatoes to ripen on the vine. If it isn't possible to save the plant and leave the tomatoes, I'll be chopping off the green tomatoes, wrapping them in a towel or paper, and then place them so they're cool and dark so they ripen by themselves. It's worked before, so hopefully I will still get good from all these green tomatoes. I'm also planning on doing a lot of seed saving this year, so hopefully I can seed save from every single one of my tomato plants this year. I always place my seed saved seeds in paper envelopes now. I've tried it before in metal containers and plastic containers, but if your seeds are not fully dry, they will go mouldy. So this is a nice easy alternative, well I've found anyway. It's also then a really easy way just to write on the envelope and mark what it is and when you harvested it or seed saved it. Oh, nearly forgot about the melon. And this is the melon plant. I've actually cut this thing back loads because it was just wild. This melon plant has suddenly decided it's going to produce lots of little melons. I mean, they're not. They're the size of like a ping pong ball. This is the biggest piece of fruit it's produced, although it does not look happy. But there's loads of other little melons appearing here, here, down here, and more flowers starting to appear. I don't think this plant knows that it's autumn. So if that grows, it will be an actual miracle. Because let's be honest, if a melon does grow now, it's far too late in the season for it to ripen. Much as I had high hopes for it, I think it's time to be realistic. I can't help having a bit of optimism for wanting to grow melons. I feel like I'm going to watch this video back later and then remember that I've already told myself not to try and grow melons again. Can't help but want to try. So let's see how the raised beds have been doing. The carrots are growing okay. I've probably planted them a little bit late this year, as is the beetroot. Beetroot is questionable. This is never going to be big enough to harvest before winter. I'm not holding out a whole lot of hope for this beetroot, but I will leave it in the ground and see what happens. Maybe it'll grow by some miracle, or maybe get beetroot early next year. The pumpkins, on the other hand, are amazing. I'm so pleased about the pumpkins this year. So at the start of the year I had some disasters with the weather in my pumpkins and they all died. I panic planted these pumpkins in the hope that somehow they would grow and we would actually get pumpkins in time for Halloween. They're starting to go a little bit yellowy orange now, so if I have to carve a green pumpkin, I will. But I'd really like to carve pumpkins for Halloween that were orange and I'd grown myself. Although I think all the ones that are growing are sugar pumpkins and I'm not sure any of the zombie pumpkins have grown, but maybe time will tell. Maybe we'll get a zombie, maybe there is a zombie pumpkin in there. I don't know. The courgettes have not been great this year either. I got a couple that I forgot about and they turned into marrows. So of course I made marrow chutney. I shall put a link to that video up here because if you have too many courgettes and don't know what to do with them, make this courgette chutney recipe. It's amazing. Chef's kiss. So we've got something to make with all those courgettes instead of freezing them. Nothing much to report on the old lettuce. It's lettuce. Lettuce. What can you say about lettuce? It's growing. It's not dead. Hopefully I will have lettuce into autumn. On to my middle raised bed. I've got Desiree potatoes growing in there. They are looking really good. In fact, they're starting to flower. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have potatoes for winter and Christmas. Autumn King 2 carrots and parsnip half-longs. They are growing brilliantly this year. And so are the Brussel sprouts. I'm still far too excited about these purple ones. The Brussels sprouts are starting to form. Oh, the green ones are looking fantastic as well. Oh yes, hello Christmas dinner. And under the green protector mesh box I've got more beetroot and asparagus. And the beetroot is being absolutely swamped by the asparagus. I think there's too much shade from all the Brussels sprouts for these really to grow, and then of course the asparagus is just swamping it as well. Again, these beetroots were planted far too late, but I'm going to leave them and see what happens. And the asparagus, I give up. Just to leave it, I don't know what to do with it. Am I supposed to do some of the asparagus? If you know, put it in the comments below, because I have no idea what to do with this stuff. The more I read, the more confused I get. So do I just leave it? Any suggestions gratefully received. I suppose I better pick this back up so I know what I've got to talk to you guys about. And on to the last raised bed. So this year I've grown Charlotte and rooster potatoes. The Charlottes might have been in there a little bit too long, but as the rooster potatoes are dying back, I thought I'd just harvest them both at the same time. I should have lifted these a little bit earlier, but as I'm digging them out, realising actually it's okay, they look pretty good. The roosters could probably be slightly bigger, but I am not angry at a small potato. So yeah, I just carefully dug them all out, placed them onto a tray. So after I lifted the tatties, I just left them to dry in this black tray for about 24 hours. I did move them to a more shady area on the decking. To store the potatoes, I've just popped them into a cardboard box and layered them between layers of towel. So I do a layer of towel, a layer of potato, a layer of towel, a layer of potato, working from biggest potato to smallest potato. Then I've closed up the box and popped them into an ottoman in my garden shed, so they've got somewhere cool and dark to be so I can store them over winter. I also made sure that I took out the more damaged potatoes so we can eat those first. I've also saved all the little potatoes. And I think I'm going to try and grow these in buckets over winter. Worth a try? I've also popped some bamboo on top of this freshly dug soil so the cats don't poo on it. The other things planted here are set onions that I planted at the start of the year. They're not looking great. And here's my sorry looking patch of onions. I just covered them with a bit more soil and we'll wait and see what happens to them over winter. Maybe they'll be good for an early harvest next year. And of course the carrots, or the carrot flower seedlings, I know what you want to call them. So I planted these carrots at the start of last year, harvested and ate them over winter, and then I've left a few in the ground to go to seed. So they flowered a couple of months ago. They're now really starting to die back. I mean, not die back. The flowers are starting to die back. The plant's bloody massive. So the idea is the flower blooms, dies back, and then it slowly closes in on itself, and as it starts to go browny yellow, that's when you harvest the flower head. So it's probably full of beasties. Pearl, don't eat my potatoes. When they look like this, I've just been chopping off the stem and popping them into a paper bag. There's a lot of beasties in here. Whenever one of the flower heads goes brown, I'm just chopping it off, popping it in here, and popping it in a cardboard box so they can dry happily in the cool and darkness. So hopefully next year I can grow carrots from seeds that I've saved. Is this going to work? Who knows? We'll find out next year. We can find out together if you subscribe. And where I've lifted the tatties from, I'm going to be planting garlic and set onions in the next month, or as soon as I can get my hands on some set onions, because I can't find them at the moment. Is it too early? I don't know. I also might plant some lettuce. I've got winter density here. It does say to sow from August to April. I've also got some Alicia Craig onions to start. I figure if I start them now, they might be ready to plant by next year. It does say you can sow them from December, but it's Scotland. I might start a bit earlier and I will plant them indoors. Maybe in the greenhouse? Oh no, I'm going to put these on the heat mat, I think. I also want to plant some spring onions to eat over winter. So in the next month or so, I shall be maybe planting these. The other thing that's doing really well in the garden is the pear and the apple tree. Look at all these pears. Oh, I am so chuffed about this. They're not quite ready to harvest yet, but it's not going to be long. I mean, just amazing. Perfectly formed pears. Bloody delighted. I'm far too pleased about pears. And loads of apples. Okay, a few of them do have blemishes, but that's not going to matter. They're going to make fabulous cider. I've also been busy harvesting from the bramble tree, bramble bush, whatever it's called. Gotten loads of brambles this year. I would still like more because it's still not quite enough for jam because I can't stop eating them while I pick them. I think it's called a Japanese wineberry, kind of between a bramble and a raspberry. Beautiful. This is really quite bright. I shall also be harvesting the pears and the apples very soon, in the next month or two. Probably sooner, October time. I think October time is sort of the optimum time for pears and apples, but I'll just harvest them whenever they're ready. I'm also still deadheading like crazy. Anything that dies back in the garden, I just try and deadhead as soon as I see it, which is not always the case, but we try our best. And hopefully that'll keep my rainbow planter looking lovely. And on the deck, and I think I've harvested the last of the strawberries. They're not great, they're not the sweetest, but we've just got to make the best of it and hope for another good harvest next year. I've also repotted and moved my entwined pear tree. I really want to plant it in the garden, but I have plans for our garden shed, so I don't want to plant anything else in the ground as yet until those plans come to fruition. Hopefully I can tell you more about those plans soon. But it does mean the pear trees in a slightly more sheltered location for winter. And then I bought this, a grapevine. This is what I bought. It does say it's hardy down to minus 25 degrees. We'll see about that. So I've potted it up here in our decking. They're a seedless purple grape. Apparently it can grow up to 7 metres. I think it would look quite pretty running over the roof of our decking. Too much? Or do I need another one? Do I need a yellow grape? Or maybe a pink grape? Oh dear. I have actually spied in one of the garden magazines a few other plants for the decking. I wondered if fig would be a good idea. I don't know if my garden is warm enough in the northeast of Scotland for a fig plant. I also looked at a lime tree and was like, no, no, it is a tropical plant that will not survive. But yet, I still find myself thinking it might be a good idea to at least give it a try. I'm hoping the grapevine will be a success. And then I can make wine, not just cider. Yes, that's what my garden has turned into. How can I make more alcoholic beverages? If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, share and subscribe. Of course, subscribing is optional, but it is very much appreciated. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! I'm going to take this bangle off. It's going to jingle the whole time, isn't it? It's just going to be jingle, jingle, jingle. And then place them somewhere cooler damp. Cooler damp? Don't do that. No. There seems to be an awful lot of noise around here at the moment. Is that a plane? Yes it is. Well, it's nice to see people going on holiday. I'm not jealous. You're jealous. Might be a little bit. Although it's a lovely day today, so I can't complain too much. No, that cake is not for you. I seen you looking. I don't know how you're going to help here. Just smoosh up against the microphone. Yes, that's such a help. Determined to get a cameo.